Welcome to the Charismafy training video. If you want to learn compelling and interactive storytelling with the kids in your daycare in just 4 steps, then keep watching. There are 4 steps to effectively telling stories while also having an interactive experience with the kids, and we will go into these 4 steps in detail. First is to be expressive when telling the story. Second is to be interactive with the kids while telling the story. Third, after the storytelling, it's important to have a Q&A session with the kids. And fourth, after telling the story, it's important to encourage role-playing. When telling a story for the first time, it is important to be expressive and animated when narrating it. This way, the kids are brought into the world of the story, and it makes the overall storytelling experience more enjoyable and fun for them. An example of this, with the simple word wow, is saying wow versus wow. Another example, as if we're narrating the story, is saying the lion roared versus the lion roared. By being more expressive and animated, it brings the kids into the world of the story and makes this experience so much more fun for them. Now, I will do an example of narrating a story in a monotone manner versus a very expressive manner. There was a frog that was exploring a big barn. The frog was very curious, and when it was going inside the barn, it didn't watch out to see where it was jumping, and the frog accidentally fell into a bucket of milk. The frog didn't know what to do. It tried to jump out, and it tried to kick around, but it wasn't able to escape. The frog still did not give up. The frog kicked and jumped and kicked and jumped, and after hours of this, the milk started to solidify. The milk became curd or butter. And because the milk solidified, the frog was able to jump on that and jump out of the bucket. The moral of this story is to never give up. One day, there was a frog exploring a barn. The frog was very curious, and when it saw this big barn, it decided to go inside and see what was there. The frog was extremely curious and excited, so as it was hopping inside the barn, it didn't watch to see where it was going. And the frog accidentally fell into a pail of milk. The frog tried to jump and kick its way out, but it wasn't working, and it was still stuck inside the pail. The frog jumped and jumped and jumped, but it still didn't work. But the frog never gave up. The frog jumped and jumped and jumped for hours, until eventually all this jumping that the frog did solidified the milk, and turning it into curd or butter. Because of this, the frog was able to jump on that butter and jump out of the pail. The moral of the story is to never give up. Notice the inflections and the ups and downs and the changes in volume in the more compelling way of telling the story, or in the more animated way. By doing these different changes in your voice, it really engages the kids and brings them into the world of the story. Now that you are a master of expressively telling stories, we want this experience to be interactive and relatable to the kids. All of these stories have themes such as friendship and loyalty and determination. And by asking the kids questions about these themes and how they apply in their daily lives, make these stories so much more interactive and relatable to them. An example, looking back to the frog in the pail story, after telling the story, you can ask the kid, was there a time that you never gave up? Or was there a time that you felt like giving up but didn't? Another example is telling a story about friendship and then asking the kids, who is your best friend? Asking these questions applies these themes to the kids and makes the storytelling that much more immersive and relatable to them. Step 3 is to do a Q&A with the kids. Now that they understand the themes of the story and the moral and how it can apply to their daily lives, it's important to check the understanding and what the kids have learned or what they just understand from the story. In the Charismafy app, there are comic strips that you can access and print out and show these kids. And with those comic strips, you can ask the kids questions. For example, looking back at the frog in the pail story, you can ask the kids questions like, how many frogs can you see in the comics? What color is the frog? And what color is the milk? What color is the bucket? Asking these questions helps the kids practice the basic skills that they're already learning, and it makes it more relatable within the story. Now, this even helps the kids learn their colors and learn their numbers, in addition to the storytelling and the morals that they learn. Now that the kids understand the morals and the themes within the story, a good way to check their understanding of the story is to go to the Charismafy app and print out a comic strip and to ask the kids questions about these strips. Looking back at the Frog in the Pail story, this is the comic strip for that story. And after telling the story, you can ask the kids questions such as, how many frogs do you see? What color is the frog? What color is the milk? And what color is the bucket? Asking these questions helps the kids practice the skills that they've already learned, such as their colors and their numbers, in addition to the storytelling and the morals and the lessons that they learn as well. Now that the kids are understanding the themes, the lessons, and are even practicing their skills with the story, it's time for the last step, which is role-playing. What you can do is ask the kids to come to the front of the class and narrate the story themselves so that they're practicing their speaking and communication skills. Another thing is to ask the kids to play the characters within the story. Looking back at the Frog in the Pail story, you can ask one of the kids to be the frog, to pretend to jump and be in the pot of milk, and to jump and kick and get out of it, but still never give up. Allowing these kids to practice speaking these stories and to play these characters allows them to build a sense of camaraderie with each other and to practice their communication skills. These are the 4 steps to be an expressive and interactive storyteller. By following these 4 steps, you're not only engaging the kids in the story, but checking their understanding and relating the themes of the story to their daily lives. By doing this storytelling, you're improving the communication skills of the kids, improving the skills that they're already learning, and building a sense of friendship and camaraderie within their communities. And not only will they enjoy the storytelling, but they'll continue to look forward to more stories every day. Make sure to check out the Charismafy app so you can tell perspective-altering stories and radiate magnetic charisma.